And now we move on to the next segment of the bulletin, On the Table. Over to you, Carlos.
Thank you, Mohana. And Salam Malaysia Madani. Well, on the table tonight, we are going to be looking at the EV industry and its impact on Malaysia and the region. And with me is Associate Professor and Manager of Business Development of Putra Business School, Dr. Ahmed Razman Abdul Latif. Thank you, Doctor, for being with us on the program. So now let's begin with our topic today. Now, as we know, the past week, we've seen some significant developments or heard about it regarding the EV industry. Now, so Doctor, do you think the meeting between Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim, and the CEO or the face of Tesla, Elon Musk, would bring significant impact or significant impacts to our EV industry and subsequently our economy?
Thank you, Carlos. Whether it's going to bring a significant impact to industry and our economy, maybe not immediately, but eventually, because in my opinion, this is the right move where we need to consider on our economic structure. We need to have more diversified industry. We cannot just simply depend on the traditional source of revenue in form of commodity or services, as well as on the manufacturing E&E that we have right now. So I think it is in the right move and eventually going to be a significant impact to our industry.
You see it in the near future is going to be giving a time frame of maybe within the next 5 years, probably? There will be a good volume of
Depends on what we are going to plan for this kind of industry. Are we just going to be a nation of consumer, just buying all the EV imported from outside, or are we going to be the active participant in the industry?
Right. So how does this new commitment affect Malaysia's plan of transforming its automotive high-tech valley as an EV hub for Asia-Pacific?
Well, I like to refer to the policy that the government already put in place since 2020. We do have this national automotive policy. And if you look into this policy, some of the main focus for the next 10 years should be on the next generation vehicle. So EV is one of these initiative and also the focus. And it's not just simply focusing on the EV. When talking about the automotive high-tech value, you're talking about the whole ecosystem of the components of it. For example, when we're talking about Industrial Revolution 4.0, there's artificial intelligence, there's a hybrid technology. Now in Malaysia, we actually have Center for Autonomous Driving. And we also looking into the car or the transportation or the mobility is not simply for people to own, to drive, to go somewhere, but it can be a form of services connected to the whole spectrum of 5G connectivity, for example. So when I look into the plan to transform the automotive high-tech valley as a hub for the Asia-Pacific, this actually already part of the policy that already in place 2-3 years ago.
Right. So now besides the cars, there's also the motorcycles, which are electric bikes, electric trucks also coming in, and of course trains. All right. And looking at the cars right now, actually in Malaysia, we already have EV cars a couple of years ago, not by Tesla, but other brands as well. So now, will that improve as well as in the other industries, or rather the other car makers? Do you think they're going to come up with more electric cars in time to come, and then get rid of the internal combustion engine cars?
Yes, with coming of Tesla, it's good for the competition. At least the other EV manufacturer will start to think, okay, this is a totally new game altogether. Are we going to compete on the prices or the efficiency of the car itself? But for Malaysia, I think if we want to become the hub, we don't want to be, like I mentioned earlier, as a nation of consumer.
Correct.
We need to look into the whole supply chain of it.
Correct.
And maybe if I can say something about what we have been talking or discussing about this for the past few weeks or months, when Malaysia actually has a potential to become the producer of rare earth elements.
Correct.
And rare earth elements actually is important component to be used in
the batteries, right?
In the batteries, permanent magnet, as well as in our smartphone.
Yes, it is.
So imagine, right now, Indonesia has become the hub for manufacturing the battery. But Tesla, for example, manufacturing their car in China to sell it here.
Right.
But we have the raw materials, and we have started to extract from the mine in Kedah, Kelantan, and Perak. But unfortunately, at the moment, we are simply exporting it probably to China.
Right.
And if we can create the whole supply chain from upstream to downstream, we process it. We already have liners that can process the minerals. We can create the whole industry. Probably the cost of manufacturing EV car will be quite low here. And we can not. It's not just simply to supply the domestic demand. We can even be the exporter to other markets.
Correct.
So that's why I think when Tesla is coming, when the whole sector is actually going to become very interesting indeed. But we should also look beyond just simply manufacturing or assembling the car, but supplying even the component and the material itself.
Right, which is so true, because we have the minerals here in Malaysia itself. So now, does the growth of the EVs from certain brands such as Tesla or BYD, somehow help boost the confidence of investors from other sectors?
It should. Because when talking about going green, when talking about ESG, environmental, social governance, where even our country now, as well as the private sectors, has committed to achieve some or even all the United Nations 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal. So when we look into all these things, it helps to boost the confidence of other investors. We have seen the increasing trend of FDIs coming to the country, and we have seen how our leader has visited many other countries, signing MOU and everything, and this should be the boost or impetus for the whole EV industry to join into the bandwagon and bring in more supporting industries to the industry.
Right. We're looking forward to that, actually. And what about the non-EV companies then? What's in for them? Does this spur any investment competition?
Well, when we look into the trend, even Singapore also moving towards having 100% sales of electric vehicle for their market, meaning they are no longer going to allow the sale of a combustion engine vehicles. So, and eventually, everyone will follow suit. So when talking about non-EV, of course, it's not mean they are going to completely be removed out of the picture, but they are probably transforming or evolve. Maybe there's some kind of evolution where they also might become EV manufacturers themselves. And actually, this is actually something that they're already been doing, exploring the market is big. Okay, they are not supposed to just focusing on one segment part of this EV. When I just came back from China, and I was in Xi'an, north part of the China, and the majority of the people, the common people, actually using EV, but it's not cars, it's scooters, bikes. So this is something that could be a potential for the non-EV companies, focusing on that one person.
Yes. And China is the number one country right now with the most EVs in the world. Wow. Okay, this is something that we would like to know. Ordinary Malaysians like me, for instance. All right. How is it going to affect us with the EV industry? Because we are using the ICE, internal combustion engines, and we don't know when we can actually afford, but probably like if Malaysia comes up with our own electric vehicle someday, that's when the prices probably could be very, very competitive. But what's it for us, normal people?
I agree. Maybe I cannot afford Tesla. Maybe you can afford to buy the Tesla right now, but initially it's going to be quite expensive and unaffordable to majority of the population. But I'm sure with the economy of scale, when there's more competitors coming in, when they start to explore, actually the huge market is between the M40. The M40 actually should be the huge market for the car manufacturers, and we should be seeing more affordable kind of vehicle. But I'm also thinking, in the National Automotive Policy, they are talking about mobility as a service, meaning that we do not necessarily have to own a car to go everywhere.
From point A or point B.
Yeah, there's a possibility. This electric vehicle, imagine the situation where it's autonomous driven, it's connected to the 5G network. So we simply book a ride through our app, through our smartphone. The car comes in, and we just go to the destination. Right. So it can replace the buses, the trains, the MRT even. So when that kind of thing happen, so we do not need to afford to buy it, but we should be able to afford to use it as a service. Right. So that's also a possibility because it's part of our National Automotive Policy.
Yeah, looking bright.
So we don't have to buy Tesla.
Well, Malaysia's EVs have doubled in numbers the past year. And with the mass bookings of Tesla, well, they would not actually reveal. And recently, they say it's a fake news. 10,000 bookings. But anyway, it's fake news, but they still won't reveal. And the upcoming launch of the new BYD, right? We can say that the EV trend is becoming more popular than ever. We can see that already happening. But for how long do you think that, Doctor, that the government should maintain the implementation of EV tax exemption to promote the use of EV in Malaysia?
Well, looking at this initiative, of course, we want to see what's the demand like. If turn out there are so many of us can afford to buy the EV cars, maybe we do not need to have that kind of the exemption to promote the use of it. So I guess when the sales by Tesla and BYD, the sales figure come up, maybe the government can reconsider the implementation of EV tax exemption. So I think it depends on the trend of sales before the government can decide whether to abolish or not.
Or not, yeah. So, well, before we actually end, because we are running short of time. The minerals, coming back to minerals here, all right, in Malaysia that we have, and probably around the world, right? So now, moving to the EV industry, the petroleum industry is we're going to offset that. It's going to go differently. So now, with the usage of rare earth and other minerals like iron, magnesium, and all that stuff, is that going to cause any? We are looking at climate change, right? Is that going to cause anything to Mother Earth? Because we are using something from Mother Earth, making it into something, offsetting it. How is it going to affect the world? What do you think?
I'm involved in the committee for the ministry to look into the business model for the rare earth element from upstream to downstream, and we have visited many stakeholders. We look into. This is the main concern, especially when the concerned communities and NGOs talking about will this affect the Mother Earth. We don't want to become green by destroying the trees.
Exactly.
But the technology is there. Okay, so we need to be able to extract this sustainably. But the main challenge is the governance.
I see.
Okay, with the right people, with the right policy, we should be fine.
Inshallah. Thanks, Doctor. But we are running out of time. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Razman, for your valuable insights today. And I'm afraid that's all the time we have for now. That wraps up Malaysia Tonight. I'm Muhammad Amin Carlos together with Mohana Priya. Salam Malaysia Madani. And again, of course, Malaysia Madani, Tekad Perpaduan, Penuhi Harapan. Thanks for your company. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.